She's a fashion blogger, model, and entrepreneur.
She's amazing.
The latest tips on fashion, beauty, wellness, travel, and her lifestyle. And now, here's the founder and creator of Not Basic Blonde, Olasha.
Hi, Albert. Welcome to Not Basic Blonde podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited. I know you're in Miami, right?
Yes.
Miami and LA, two of my favorite cities.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you. Me too. And I'll just do a short intro. Hi, loves. Welcome back to another episode of Not Basic Blonde podcast. And I have a very interesting guest today, Albert Preciado. And he's the founder and CEO of Mortgage Guys, Ambience Realty, and Driven Enterprises. Albert is also a real estate investor. In 2013, Albert bought a 3-unit property, and like everything else Albert does, he went all in and acquired as many multi-units as possible. This would end up being a life changer. Albert's original company was Mortgage Guy, and after mentorship sessions, company name changed to Mortgage Guys. This was another life changer. Albert has been in the mortgage industry since 2005. He's a licensed broker and mortgage originator. After many mistakes that led to DUI, almost death situations, and losing everything in 2008, mortgage meltdown, and becoming homeless, Albert turned his life around in 2013 when he committed to self-improvement and cutting the bullshit from his life one at a time. Today, Albert lives a dream life with his wife Sylvia, his daughters, and in Beverly Hills. So we're so happy to have you on, and we would love to know, how did you start and how you became so successful?
Yeah, so it's been a journey, and a lot of things change, in life, and you learn, like you make mistakes and there's ups and downs. And the biggest thing that I've learned from mentors and very successful, wealthy friends that I have is how long it takes to build a business. It doesn't take 10 years. It doesn't take 20 years. It takes 30, 40 years. All these people that build big companies, it takes them a long time. So the way I started was in mortgages. I was dating this girl, and her brother owned a mortgage company. So I remember I'm 20 years old, more or less. And I'm dating this girl, and the brother has a mortgage company, and the brother has 3 cars, a house in the hills. And he's going out with all these girls, and I'm like, what does this guy do? So I was more excited to spend time with the brother than the girl I was dating, because I wanted to learn from the brother, like, how do you do that? How are you a millionaire, and what do you do? So long story short, I met him, and he told me he does mortgages, and he said, I do mortgages, and real estate, and that's how I make the money. And he said, I asked him, can I go and work for you? Like, I want to learn. I want to do the same thing and learn and be like you. Like, can I do it? And he said, you have to read this book first. So he gave me the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki. So I read that book, and right away, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like, I didn't want to be an employee. I didn't want to be self-employed. Like, I didn't want to be like just an independent contractor. I wanted to start my own business. So I just went all in, and I got into mortgages, and you make good commissions. So you make good money. Right away, I made $300,000 my first 12 months in the business, and I got a Mercedes, got 2 homes, started going out with a lot of girls, and made a lot of mistakes. So that was my start in mortgages. And then from there on, a lot of other things happened.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Of course, being an entrepreneur is the best thing. You have your own schedule, but you also work really hard. But it comes with a lot of responsibility, because if you stay focused and responsible, you can go high. But first, when you get the rush and when you get, successful at first, it is overwhelming.
And you know what I think, though, that most people are confused intrapreneurs.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is, most people, they think they're entrepreneurs, so they think they're entrepreneurs, like with the E, and they're not. They're intrapreneurs, like with an I. And that means that you work good under an entrepreneur, but they think they're entrepreneurs, and they're not. They don't know what it takes to build a business from zero. and have all the liability, take all the risks, and put all the money and deal with all the liability, the lawsuits, the mistakes, the tax. So they think they are entrepreneurs, but they're not, because being an entrepreneur, I think, is like for the one percenters. It's not for everybody, because it's just like being in the army. You could be a hero and start something very big and make it big, but you can also die, get a heart attack and die. Just like in the army, you'll either be a hero or you could be get killed any moment, and it's not for everybody. You don't sleep at night. You have nightmares. It's hard. You know, it's hard being an entrepreneur. So for those of you that are watching this and you want to be an entrepreneur, I would say reconsider it, unless you have what it takes, and it takes a lot.
It does. I totally feel you. And it's really hard. And it's just you work more than other people. And when other people are enjoying it, you have to work hard too. But of course, you make your own schedule. So,
I
and how do you get to the peak mental state?
you work on yourself. Like, you have to work on yourself, and many people don't know that. And for the longest, I used to do 5 hours of self-improvement. And what I mean by that is I would be up 3, 4 in the morning, and I would listen to like 2 hours of audiobooks, like from 4 in the morning till 6. Then I would shower, go to the gym, and I would listen to self-improvement. Then I would read for another hour. Then sometimes I would listen to podcasts. So every day, 5 hours, I was just listening to get better. And I know you had Elena Cardone on your show.
Yeah.
And Elena Cardone, I know her very well. Like we were very, very close years ago. So I started doing a lot of self-improvement. And for the past 20 years, since I was a kid, I just did a lot of self-improvement to improve myself. And all that just made me stronger, because sometimes you don't feel like living anymore. Sometimes you feel like it's like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want an easy life. This is very stressful. I can't do it. And you feel like quitting, but you don't. And I hired all these people. First, it started with books and listening to podcasts and things like that. But then I actually got to meet these people in person. So I don't know if you know Tim Grover. Tim Grover was the trainer of Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade. I hired him to work with me one-on-one in person. So I know Tim Grover, you know, I know John Maxwell, the leadership OG, the best in leadership, the best mentor for leadership. I know everybody, like Grant Cardone and Patrick Bet-David. Not sure if you know them. I hired them
yesterday.
10 years ago
Patrick.
to be my mentor one-on-one. Yeah. So I started reading books when I was broke. I couldn't afford anything. So I used to drive a Honda Civic that was like beat up and broke down all the time. But I could afford books. So I would buy books, listen to them, and then go to Equinox, like to be in a better environment and meet people that were successful, that would just like pump me up and excite me. Like, when maybe one day I'll have a Ferrari like this guy. So I started working on myself a lot, and I got to the point where I paid them money when I had money so that they can work with me one-on-one. So all of them, having them as mentors and telling me like, hey, don't quit, because if you quit one time, you're always going to quit when it gets hard. So that's what got me into like learning how to get in my peak mental state when things are falling apart and when it's so hard and everybody's quitting. I'm not going to quit, because I know that once you quit once, you're a quitter for life. Once you say like, hey, you know what? I'm not good enough to be in Bel Air. I'm not good enough to have Ferraris, Rolls Royces. I just want to have an easy, simple life. I'm just going to go back to like being average. I'm going to hang out with average people. Then that is the death. Like you failed. And you're not going to get back up. Just like when a boxer gets knocked out and he loses, then everybody kicks his ass because they know how it is to quit, and they rather just quit when times get hard. But me, I'll never quit.
And also, I love how you mentioned put yourself in environments where you will upgrade yourself, definitely. When I also noticed, and I've done it always when I had to step up and get something way more expensive, than I would work harder, and it would actually come. The opportunities would come for you to afford bigger things and better things when you set your mind for it and when you try to upgrade. So as you mentioned, you went to Equinox, you went to other places. So I guess, yeah, the mindset and is everything, and putting yourself in those places around those people where you can meet
Yeah.
those people is essential.
You know a funny story. I used to go to Equinox, and I was so broke that I used to drive my red Honda Civic, because the red Honda Civic it was a red Honda Civic coupe with two doors, so it kind of reminded me of a red Ferrari two doors. So it was an old Honda Civic. So I was so broke that I couldn't even afford paying the meters. So I couldn't even put quarters because it was money, right? So I would park it like where all these homeless people were, and like in a street that was like empty and dangerous, and I would just park it right there, and I would get my window broken sometimes, but I would park it there in like an alley because it was free, and then I would walk to the gym and walk blocks to the gym, and then I would sneak into the gym. So I would sneak into Equinox, and I would go there and get a water bottle, buy a water, and then pretend to be on the phone, and I would just sneak in because I used to get guest passes, but the guest passes run out. They give you like 1 week guest passes. After they would run out, I would just have to sneak in. So I became the best in sneaking into the high-end gyms. So I would go to the gym, and then I took it even further. I used to not now I've had Ferraris for like 10 years, so I have like the real key now. But I bought a fake key. So I bought a fake Ferrari key, and I would go to Equinox and put the fake key like on the floor. So everybody would see me like, oh, Albert's here and he has a Ferrari. It was a fake key, but that alone would open conversations, and people would go up to me and start talking to me. And then I met people, and I remember I met this agent that was a realtor from the $1 Million Listing Show. And I'm broke. I have a Honda Civic outside. I have a fake Ferrari key, but I'm talking to the $1 Million Listing Show, that agent that comes out on the show. So I'm like, damn, I just created this relationship. I got a cell phone that I would not create. I would have not created this relationship if I would just stay average and do average things, be in average gyms, and just commit to being broke. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to push myself, and just being in those better environments, I started meeting people that motivated me to just go all in and go for my potential, like go for my max potential.
Yeah, so true, because sometimes people say, oh, just live beyond, don't live beyond your needs or like, means. But sometimes you have to level up. So,
Absolutely.
and what do you mean by don't get married till you buy the house?
Oh, so if you're watching this and you're single, you're a single girl, you're a single guy, and you have your girl or your guy of your dreams, and you want to get married, and usually, I don't think a guy ever wants to get married, and maybe you agree or you don't agree, but I think for the girl, for the woman, it's more important to get married, and they want to get married, have a wedding, have kids, have security. Obviously, there's women that are like boss ladies, and they want to make their own money, but there's those women that want to marry the man of their dreams. But what I mean by that is before you get married, if you're thinking about it, like if let me put myself in my position as a man. So if you're the man and you have a girlfriend and she wants to get married, and she really wants to get married, you tell her, no, we're not going to get married until we buy a house. We both buy a house. So the future husband buys 4 units, and then the future wife buys 4 units. So that's 8. So you get 8 instead of 4, because you're gonna finance it FHA. So FHA allows you to buy up to 4 units with only 3.5% down. So you're only gonna put 3.5% down instead of 25% down, which is a big difference. So if you get married, you're disqualified to get an FHA loan for 4 units each. Now, as a married couple, you qualify only for 1 FHA loan. So before getting married, you make your girl buy 4 units FHA under her name, and then you buy 4 units under your name FHA. And now you have 8 instead of only 4 if you get married. So that's what I tell most people. Like, if you get married, you're fucked, because now you only have potential to buy 4 units FHA instead of 8 if you would have bought the properties before getting married. So the biggest mistake somebody will make a couple is getting married before you each buy a 4 unit property FHA, because now you're going to have 8 units where you could collect 8 future rents.
Wow, that's very interesting. Such a great advice.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Like, buying a property is
No.
not that bad, not that hard. Up to 4 units, only 3.5% FHA. If
Wow.
you can't do 5 units, because 5 units is considered commercial. But you could buy a little apartment of 4 units, up to 4 units, and that's, you live in one and then you rent the other three. So imagine if you buy a 4 unit FHA, you live in one of them, and then you collect 3 rents, and then those 3 rents pay your mortgage, and then you have extra money. So you're not paying anything. You're living free by putting only 3.5% down, leveraging, like buying for a unit and then collecting 3 rents that pay your mortgage, and then you might have free money.
Wow, very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How do you cast a vision?
When I was a little boy, I was 6 years old. I used to live in this, again, environments. So when I was a little boy, I used to I was an entrepreneur since I was a little boy, by the way. But when I was 6, my dad, he would come home from work, and my dad was a painter in Bel Air. So he used to paint homes in Bel Air, and he would come home late and tired and like defeated and like with no energy because he was painting all day. He would climb ladders, work in the sun, paint homes, and he would come back and he would wear white because painters wear white. And he would come back with a white outfit with like red and colors because from the paint. So I thought my dad was like a superhero and he would go out and fight and kill bad people. And that's why he had red marks, blood, but it was paint because he was painting. So one day my dad took me, I told him, hey, take me with you. I want to go work with you. I want to see what you do. He took me with him and he was a painter. So I went there and I went to Bel Air and I would drive on Sunset Boulevard, going to Bel Air. And I would see like, man, look at this office. This is a huge, nice office of my dreams. And then I would see the Bel Air mansions. Wow, Bel Air mansion. And then I saw a car there, which was a red Ferrari. And I asked my dad, hey, how come we don't live here? How come we live in a bad area in the ghetto and where we have shootings, drug dealers, and people stealing, So he said, because this is not for us. So at 6, I asked him, like, what do you mean it's not for us? How can it be for us? So he said, if you work hard and you never quit, it could be for you. And one thing that he didn't realize is just by being around this, like Bel Air and everything, you cast a vision because you're a little kid. And as a little kid, you think you could do anything. A little kid believes that they can fly. And so I believe that one day I'll be in Bel Air. One day I'll have a Ferrari. And I mean, for the past years, we've been living in Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Ferraris, Rolls Royces, the private jets. Obviously, there's ups and downs. Economies are good, economies are bad. When economies are good, you spend a little bit more. When economies are bad, you have to figure it out, but you can't quit. So like I casted my vision when I was 6. I told my dad, hey dad, one day I'm going to live in Bel Air. We're here in Bel Air. One day I'm going to have a Ferrari. I have a Ferrari outside. And one day I'm going to have that big office. We had that office, which was a big office, and it helped us build like culture and build a company. So all of those things became a reality because I casted a vision, a big vision. And most people they're like, you know what? I'm not going to take any risks. I'm not going to go for it. And the sad thing is that what if you would have went for it and you would have accomplished, like most people they're average.
Yeah, so true. So because when we are kids, we don't have any limiting beliefs, and as we grow up, we get the limiting beliefs and self-doubts and all that. So, of course, at that age, if you have that vision, it's totally amazing. And the people start overthinking later on in life and get different failures and all that. So then they start doubting themselves and don't try and even like afraid to try.
Right.
Which leads me to another interesting question, like walk us through a pivotal failure or a setback you faced and what happened and what did you learn?
I've had so many failures, like failures are good because that's when you learn.
Yeah.
And most people, they think everything's going to be perfect, and they're like, well, what if we would have done this? What if we wouldn't have done this? What if we could have like did it differently? And you can't go back in time, and when you make failures, that forces you to grow, that forces you to become better. So like failures are good. There's failures where there's time you could be dead. So if you're not dead, that means that you're in position to take action. And if you take enough action, you'll fix anything. But I've had so many failures. Like I don't know which one I can share here that's gonna help. Is this mostly for business people or
Yes,
for
entrepreneurs.
yeah, okay, for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So 2008. So 2008, I don't know where you were in 2008 or how old you are, if you were around, but in 2008 I was 23, 24, more or less, and then I think I was no, well, regardless, I was in my mid 20s. So in 2008, that's when I lost everything. So I was making $300,000 a year in mortgages, and then in 2008, one of the worst economies that I lived, which right now is worse, by the way. But in 2008, you couldn't sell homes. Everybody was getting their homes foreclosed. People were going out of business. So what I learned was that if I would have saved enough money, if I would have bought properties, at a good price, if I would have stayed away from drugs and alcohol, because I didn't do crazy drugs, but I did get addicted to cocaine for like a year and a half. I drank a lot, partied, and tried simple drugs, nothing crazy. But if I wouldn't have done that and I would have been focused, being focused is the number one thing that you always have to stay focused. I would not have lost everything in 2008. I would have taken advantage of the opportunity, so like that's one of the things that I learned. But then again, 2020, we had COVID. So when COVID happened, they shut down everything and it was scary. And most people, they just stopped and they weren't taking any action. And what I did was just having the mindset, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep going. I just kept going and I broke the rules. They said you have to wear a mask. I wasn't wearing the masks. They said you can't go out and I went out. That you can't have employees working in the office. I had employees working in the office and I was a rebel, but I said, we're going to fight because if we stop, we're going to go out of business anyways. Yeah. So if I go against what you're supposed to do, like maybe I get sued because I had employees working, but I'd rather be sued and then go out of business anyway. So like I just went and I fought and I always fought. But then again, 2023, the economy started getting really bad. So just with all the experience that I've been through, I know that there's always solutions and hard times are the best times because they get rid of all the baggage. They get rid of all the people that weren't really loyal. You all the true colors, the true face of people, it comes out. So I like bad times, hard times, because they force you to get better and grow. And once you faced a lot of challenges, you've been tested. And John Maxwell told me that a leader that has not been tested in a big way, you cannot be trusted. So if you've been, like, for example, myself, if I've been tested so many times and no matter what, maybe I lose it all, but I get it back. I lose it all, but I get it back. But I keep growing. I've been tested so many times that when times are tough, people already expect me to figure it out. So people can trust me because I've been there. But when you follow a leader that has never been tested, has never even accomplished anything or owned a business, started a business, and hasn't dealt with any business that doesn't have a business track record, then you can't trust these people. So I think from the experience, it's the biggest takeaway that I got because it allowed me to be ready for times like this.
Yeah, so true. I totally agree with you. And I feel like when you go through challenging times, like your tolerance level goes up and then you feel like unbreakable because whatever gets thrown at you and you feel like you'll figure it out because I've been through worse. So,
Yeah, exactly.
how do you decide which opportunities to take and which opportunities to pass on?
So whenever I see being around so many successful people and mentors, like I have my best friend is a well above a billionaire, and whenever I have something that I'm like, should I do it or should I not? Like I'll give you a perfect example. I run an idea. Like we have an idea. Hey, you know what? Let's get an office here. Let's get an office here. Let's get an office here. Let's hire this. Let's hire this person. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea. But I have people telling me, yeah, it's a good idea. Let's do it. Let's invest in this. And then I don't think it's a good idea. So am I going to ask my average friend or my average colleague or an average person for advice? No, because they're not smart. They're not business people. So then I'll ask my billionaire friend, hey, what do you think of this idea? We're going to get this office and it's going to cost us X amount of money, or we're going to invest in this. It's going to cost us X amount of money. And then I'm looking, and the profit's not even going to cover that minus other expenses. And they're like, no, dude, that's stupid. Don't do it. And I'm like, yeah, don't do it. And so like when you have those people and they give you advice, then you just don't do it. And so that's what I do. When you have the relationships, you can make a phone call, and if they tell you don't do it, and it's somebody that is a billionaire or somebody worth hundreds of millions, or somebody that has experience, a lot of experience, but successful, then you listen to them. So that's why it's very important to never spend time with people that don't bring you value. If people are not bringing you value, why are you going to do a podcast with them? Why are you going to text them back? Why are you going to call them back? Why are you going to go have lunch with them? Why are you going to go have drinks with them? Why are you going to, so those people that don't bring me value, I'm not interested in those people. Maybe they could follow us on social media and learn, but I'm not interested in spending time with them because I have daughters, I have my parents, I have other people that are more important. And if they want to go hang out, have a drink, no, I'm not going to have a drink with them, but I'll have a drink with a billionaire because I'm going to learn. And people can say, oh, he's selfish. Oh, he's very dry. Oh, he moves on really quick. Yeah, I'm 42 years old. I don't have time to waste with average people. Average people can follow, can listen to podcasts and learn. And once they level up, then maybe I want to spend some time with them.
True. And sometimes I don't even share my big ideas or any ideas with average people because, I know they will just like project their doubts and their, failures and just say, oh, you don't know, it's not going to work out. Oh, it's such and such. Well, that's why when you're an entrepreneur, you have different vision and you have different mindset. That's why you are who you are, because it's not for average people, and it's not, average people sometimes don't even get it.
Yeah, and remember, you're the average of your 5 closest people. So make sure those 5 people are very, very valuable. They bring you a lot of value, and they give you good advice. And because if you hang around with average people, you're going to become average or worse.
Yeah, that's true. How do you balance intuition and data when making big decisions?
Data is key. You got to look at data, but somebody that has been around, that has a lot of experience and has a success track record, your intuition is going to be very good. So you got to trust it. You got to go with your gut feeling, because if you start thinking about it, like sometimes you're thinking about it. Me, I just dive in. I'm going to do it. What's the worst that can happen? I lose it all. I still have the knowledge, the experience. I'll have the experience. So, but you got to look at data. It's like if you're going to start a business, let's just say that I have a friend here that his name is Bob. And Bob's like, oh, you know what? And he has no business experience. He's never started a business, and he's going to start a business for the first time. And he's like, you know what? I have an idea. I'm going to start a mobile car wash. Or hey, I'm going to start a mobile dog groomer. All right, I'm not saying it's bad. You could make good money. However, the TAM is not going to be high enough. So you got to look for some, like if you for new business owners, if you're gonna start a new business, find a business that has a big TAM, right? Because if not, then you're gonna be capped. So you got to look into like, okay, a mobile dog groomer. Like, what's the biggest TAM? What's the most that? What's the highest earner business owner in that field? Maybe 1 million a year. I don't know how much money you can make washing cars mobile or grooming dogs. Maybe 1 million, maybe 2 million at most, but that's it. But when you think about, okay, well, what about mortgage? Okay, let's just check this. Watch. I'll give you updated data. So let's look at mortgage. The biggest mortgage company is Rocket Mortgage. So Rocket Mortgage stock. Okay, so you search that, click on it, and it's going to give me the valuation of Rocket Mortgage. So Rocket Mortgage is worth today $45 billion. So when I look at the market cap, $45.49 billion.
Yeah.
So it's not 100 billion, but it's big enough. So I mean, would you say that $45 billion is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So even if you have a small, crappy mortgage company, lender, not broker, you have to have a mortgage lender where you fund the loans and then you sell them. And you can't build a company based on independent contractors. You got to build a company with employees. Rocket Mortgage does not have employees. I mean, they don't have independent contractors like 1099 people. They have employees only. So you could look at the second biggest company, UWM, all employees, and they're lenders. They're all lenders. So I know that that even if I build a small, crappy lender, I'll still be worth $1 billion or more, or even $500 million.
Yeah.
So I know that, okay, that's a good industry. If you look at real estate, the biggest company in real estate is what? EXP is the biggest brokerage, but they have a lot of technology. And they're only worth like maybe 2 billion or 1.6 billion last time I checked. But you get the point.
Yeah.
If you want to be a big company, tech companies are huge. So if you want to know who the biggest real estate company is, it's going to be Zillow. And Zillow does not have independent contractors. They don't have realtors that are self-employed. They have employees. Zillow has a bunch of employees and they have a lot of technology and AI to do real estate. So if you want to get into real estate and you want to think big, maybe go the technology route. Zillow, Redfin, but Redfin was bought by Rocket Mortgage. So I can go into all of that, but when you start a business, you got to think about, am I getting into the right industry? Because you might be getting into an industry that has no potential, and it's dumb unless you're happy making that kind of money. But I want to make big money. I want to make billions.
Yeah. Do you think you need like actual capital or a lot of capital to start something?
No.
Yeah,
Every big success story, they didn't have any money.
Yeah.
You know, like not every, but 99%. You know, like Donald Trump had money, but there's many others that didn't have money. They had $20. They came to America from another country and they built something big. But 99% of people that start a company, they started from zero. Like, for example, UWM, that's the second biggest mortgage lender in the nation. And a lot of people see Matty Shiba. So Matty Shiba is the one running the company right now, the CEO. It's not his company. So a lot of people are like, oh, Matty Shiba, billionaire. He's the owner of the company. He's a CEO. Yeah, he's not the owner founder. So you got to realize that company has been around for about 45 years. So the owner and founder of that company was the dad. So the dad started that company like 45 years ago, close to 50, I think. And then he built the company, and it took almost 50 years to build that company that's worth right now, I think, 18 billion. And then the dad built everything, made all the mistakes, almost went out of business, got sued. Everything that you can imagine happened to the dad. And then now the dad hands it off to the son, Matty Shiba. But Maddie Shiba didn't start it 50 years ago. It was the dad. So it takes so long to build something big. And most people, they don't want to wait. They're like, oh my God, it's 10 years and I can't take it anymore. This is so hard. It's painful. We messed up. We lost everything. But it's experience that you never lose. And now you know how to do it again. So now you do it again, but you do it the right way. And it could be like, you know what? Maybe I had the wrong model, the wrong structure. Maybe I needed to maybe hire more employees. You know, maybe I had to be a mortgage lender, not a mortgage broker. So there's a lot of things that you learn throughout the process, and I think it's beautiful. Like I like challenges and I like hard times because they weed out all the bad people, all the people that weren't really loyal, all the people that said, I'm gonna be there forever. And then when times get tough, they're like, oh, you know what? I have a better opportunity here. They're gonna pay me more. They're gonna pay me 5%, 10% more, and they leave like this, boom. But they don't value what you did for them. But that's part of business. You learn experience. Nobody can take it away from you.
Yeah. How do you approach building and leading teams? What qualities do you prioritize when you're hiring?
Well, you learn from mentors, but I think leader, like you have to be the best leader. And one of the depending if you want to build a small business like a mom and pop shop, a small shop, then you could hire independent contractors. Because independent contractors are people that work for themselves, self-employed people. So they're not employees. They're not W-2. They're not. They don't get paid hourly or salary. They work for themselves. So you can't tell them you got to work Monday through Friday from this time to this time. They work for themselves. So when you build a company based on independent contractors, you help them build their business, and then they go to another company. So they jump from company to company every 5 years, more or less. 3 to 5 years, they jump to another company. They jump to another company. So you're always going to have a small company. It's never going to be worth anything, very little or nothing. So what you want to do is build a company based on employees. Employees will not leave you because employees don't want to be millionaires. You know, employees don't want to have a huge house, Ferraris, Rolls Royces. Employees, they want to make good money. They want to buy a house. They want to have a decent house with a yard. They want to have kids. They want to have security. They're happy living a life with less stress. I have one of my best friends that I don't really talk to often, but I texted him this morning. His name was Johnny. You know, Johnny's probably gonna see this. So Johnny, we grew up together. We used to go to the same college. We used to go out, party and everything. And Johnny decided, you know what? I don't want to be a millionaire. I want to go to college. He got a girlfriend, got married, and they don't want to be millionaires. They want to go to college and they want to have a nice salary. And I remember he graduated from college and it took him 2 years to get a job because people weren't hiring. And for 2 years, he was living with his parents. He didn't have a job, but he had a degree. And then finally, 2 years later, he gets a job for like $60,000 a year. And after a few years, he got a raise. So I think now he has a six-figure salary. His wife has a six-figure salary. So they make about $250,000 a year, more or less. And I could be wrong if you're watching this, Johnny, but more or less they make about $250,000 together. They own a townhome. He has a son. He plays soccer. He works from X amount of from one time to one time, right? Like he works like from let's say 8 to 5. So he has weekends for free. He has free weekends. He's free after 6 or 5 or whatever you want to call it. He spends time with his kid, and they have a happy life. But you know they're happy like that. So that's good for them. I'm happy for them. He's happy. He's watching his kid. But some people are a little bit messed up in the head, like me. I'm a little off. I'm not all there. I'm crazy. I like to take risks, and I don't want that. I don't want that. That doesn't make me happy. I want like billions. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fight and I'm going to make mistakes, and maybe I'll die and I won't get there, but at least I tried. So that's what you got to understand. So if you build if you hire 100 employees and then you get 500 employees and you have good leadership and you find out what is going to keep them motivated, then you're going to build a company that could be worth 100 million, 500 million, $1 billion. But the employees are going to be there as long as they're taken care of, and you got to be a great leader for them. But a great leader for independent contractors, that's one of the biggest lessons I learned. You're a great leader and you give them everything, then they leave you. But if you're a great leader and you take care of your employees, if we would have done that for the past 10 years, that would have been one of the biggest lessons I learned in business.
Well, that's such a great point because it happened to me before when I had to contractors and all that. So yeah, they're kind of like not tied to your company. They're not really, they don't really care. They learn as much as they can and then they get reference letter and then they leave. So
yeah, exactly. They're selfish people. They only look out for themselves. So I bet you they learn from you and they said, oh, you know what? I can do it better than her and I can make more money. So let me just leave her after you helped them and you did a lot for them. Yeah. And they left and they tried to do it on their own. And then most of them failed and they didn't do as good. And then they want to come back or whatever.
Just working for the companies. Yeah. No. So yeah. But also, it's such a great point that employees that are actually dedicated and they don't want to be entrepreneurs because they're comfortable with it. So it's the best option, I guess, for the company.
Yeah, and then if you take care of your employees, for example, like if you tell your employees, hey, you're gonna get bonus at the end of the year if you do X, then that keeps them excited for a year and they work better, they're more productive. If you want to lock in somebody for 10 years, hey, you know what? You're going to have this salary. You're going to take maybe a little pay cut, but in 10 years, you get a house. And what do I mean by that? I have a friend that is very wealthy and he has a big company and his CEO makes a good salary. But his CEO is really, really good. His CEO runs his business and makes sure that the business is growing. And the owner, my friend, the owner, he pays a good salary to the CEO. And you know what he did? He bought him a house. So he bought him a house and the CEO employee, he has the house. It's his dream house. It's in the hills here in the valley. I think it's Porter Ranch. So if you're local here in California, you probably know where Porter Ranch is, but it's a house. It's like a $2 million home. And he bought it for him. But he said, hey, this house, you don't make any payments while you're my CEO employee of the company. In year 10, you get the house free and clear, paid off, and your dream house, you get it. So what does this do? It locks him in for 10 years. Yeah. So the employee is going to be there. The employee CEO is going to be there locked in for 10 years, growing the company. And after 10 years, he gets the house, his dream house paid off. But if he leaves year 9, he loses the house. I get the house back. So this is called golden handcuffs. It's like a business name that people use, business owners, where you create golden handcuffs. And it's not a bad thing because you're taking care of them and you're enticing them to work to stay long in the company and help you grow it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, those people who never wanted to be entrepreneurs, they wanted to work for the company, totally works for them, and they're safe long term because so many people work for companies for 15 and 20 years and have nothing left after, and companies just let them go because it just happens. But this way is
100%. But I learned so much in 20 years that it's so valuable what I learned. That's really, really important. And most people never want to make mistakes. And if you don't make mistakes, you're not learning, you're not winning.
Yeah. Playing safe is not always an option.
No, not at all.
And what are your credit card hacks? Because I've seen online you posted so many reels about it. So we would like to hear more.
Yeah, these videos, reels always go viral.
Yeah.
But you said we're talking about, do you need money to start a business or get rich? You want to help? Yeah. So you don't need money to be successful. You need other people's money. So ever since I started my first business, the mortgage company, I had $3,000 to my name. and I started a mortgage company, and I started a real estate company. We also have an escrow company. But I started all this with $3,000, and this company made $30 million for the first time in 2021. So it's a big number, $30 million of revenue, but I started with $3,000. What was the biggest tool that I used? Borrowing money. So like I borrowed money. I got an SBA loan. I got credit cards, personal credit cards, business credit cards, lines of credit. I borrowed money wherever I could borrow money. And I used that money to start every business. And then once the business made money, then I grew more. I grew more, and then I could use my own money. But you want to use other people's money, because if you use other people's money, what happens if you can't pay it back? Do they put you in jail? Do they come knock at your door and take you handcuffed? No, it's just debt. What's going to happen? They send you to collections. If you can't pay it, you can't pay it. It stays there. After 7 years, it's erased from your credit. Now, there's a lot of credit repair companies that they legally can remove it from your credit, and then you just go to another bank and apply for another loan, because your credit's going to be 700, 800. So there's a lot of like credits made up. And if you can't pay credit, then so be it. You can't pay it. You're going through tough times. But if you use your cash, if you have 50,000, 100,000, or $1 million cash in the bank, you use your cash and you make a mistake, that's your money. You can't get it back. Yeah. But if you use other people's money, you didn't lose anything. Yeah. Now, I'll give you an example of the credit card hack. 2016, we started our first driven event. So you know about the 10X conference, yes, right? Elena Cardone, Grant Cardone. Yeah, so I met him. I went to Cancun with them in 2013, and it was their first seminar, and they had 35 people. I was one of the 35 people. And that's when I started getting closer to them. I went to see them over there. I was making little money, not a lot. And I met them, and then they had their first 10X conference a few years later. And then I said, I'm going to copy that. So I said, okay, well, you know what? Let me start the same conference, but better. I always want to do it better. So I said, it's going to be called Driven. So it was our Driven conference, and they had the 10X conference. So the Driven conference, we're in year 10 of the Driven conference now. Mm-hmm. But the Driven conference, I had an idea. And I remember Grant said, well, I had an idea, and I said, I'm going to have this 10X conference, and I'm going to have it in 3 months from now, and it's going to be called 10X. So I said, okay, well, if he did it, so can I. So I said, okay, we're going to have the Driven conference, and we're going to do it in 3 years. I mean, not 3 years. We're going to do it in 3 months from now, and it's going to be at the Ritz-Carlton. And then, like my wife was like, huh? How are you going to do it? Like, what do you mean? I said, yeah, we're going to do it like that. And she was like, okay. So then I said, okay, we're going to do it. So then I had no money. So how are we going to do it? So then that's when I said, okay, well, we're going to get credit cards. So I went to Chase, and this is a Chase credit card hack that works very well. And it'll get you $80,000, $100,000 in money that you could put in your bank account. And I'm going to tell you how. You go to chase.com, and then you go to the travel cards and hotel cards. So hotel cards and travel cards, like the Marriott, the Ritz, American Airlines, Delta credit cards from Chase, they'll give you $20,000 limits because they're meant for traveling. So they want you to spend money in the hotel. If you stay for a week at the Ritz, it's going to be 20 grand. So they want you to spend 20 grand. So they have large limits. So what people don't know is you can apply for all of these cards and get approvals for like 5-6 cards of 20,000, 20,000, 20,000. Then you go to the Chase Freedom card that is 0% interest for 15 months. And you get that card with a $3,000, $5,000 limit. And then you get all these other 5-6 cards, travel cards with $20,000 limits. Then you call Chase and you tell them, hey, I want to transfer all these credit limits, the 20,000, 20,000, 20,000 to the Chase Freedom card that has 0% interest for 15 months. And then you tell them, yeah, close those cards and just transfer the limit. So they close those cards. That way you don't have to pay the annual fee of $300 a year. And then you transfer all the credit limit to your Chase Freedom card. And now you have like a $100,000 credit limit with Chase, 15 months, no interest. And then they send you checks where you could write a check and deposit the 100,000 to your bank account. Now you have $100,000 in your bank account. Other people's money, you're using Chase. They're using their money. So then I do that for my wife. I do that for my dad. I do that for my brother. And now we have 400,000, 500,000. So you make up all this money and then you go out there and you start a business. If it works, you become a multi-millionaire. If it doesn't, nothing happens. You still have your money in the bank. So that's the beauty of using other people's money. But you got to be ballsy. You got to take risks, and you got to be willing to, like, hey, I'm going to go find out if I'm good enough, if I can make it happen. But the saddest part and the worst part is, what if you never take a risk? What if you always want to play it safe? And then one day when you're 50, when you're 60, when you're old, and you're like, you don't have anything, and you're thinking, man, what if, you know what, when I was 20, 30, 40, I took some risks, and what if I would have been in Bel Air? What if I would have had my dream car? What if I would have explored the world? But I didn't, because I was so scared that I never took risks, and now I'm average, and I'm old already.
Yeah, I love that. Such a great advice. Thank you. And where can our listeners find you? Your social handles, all your information?
Just Google me, Albert Preciado.
Yeah.
Albert Preciado, Google me.
Okay.
You'll find all my stuff there.
Thank you so much, Albert. Thank you for being my guest and sharing your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I guess that's all.
Yeah, awesome. It was, I had fun.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. This should come out probably the week after next.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. And then whenever I'm in Miami, like, maybe we could do it in person.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do that. Yeah.
Or whenever you come here to LA.
I used to come there a lot for the events and everything, but I haven't been there lately.
Yeah. Awesome. So we'll stay in touch, and whatever you need from me, like, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. I would need your headshot and your bio whenever you team, or you can send me so for the the promotional reels and stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, nice being on your show, and we'll stay in touch, and keep killing it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
That was all for today, guys. Thank you so much. And Not Basic Blonde podcast is available on all the major podcast platforms. And make sure, don't forget to leave a review on iTunes or Spotify, and mention Not Basic Blonde podcast on your Instagram stories, and I'll repost you. The handle is NBB podcast. And have a great day, guys.